Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 102 brawlers in the game right now, from the very worst all the way up to the very best in a tier list for you guys. So balance changes literally just dropped yesterday, and we had even more balance changes a week ago. So the meta has changed a little bit. A lot of the top meta brawlers have received nerfs. Let's see whether that changes anything in terms of the actual meta. So as always, quick disclaimer that the meta may differ depending on where you are in your Brawl Stars journey. You know, if you're like Mythic and Ranked, it will definitely be different. If you play a lot of ladder below 100k trophies, it might be different. You know, brawlers like, I don't know, Dynamite might be a lot higher on the list, etc. But this is for the pro competitive meta, and you won't get a better tier list than this on YouTube. So make sure you guys are subscribed for all future content. And let's dive into the F tiers. So starting off with Grom. Grom received a nerf for whatever reason. Again, those Mythic players are probably thinking that Grom is really broken, but he's just not the greatest. He received another nerf, and he's easily F tier. Sam is next in the F tier. Do I even need to say anything about Sam? He's just a walking bow totem. The only saving grace is if there's like a Ruffs on the team and he can feed him a hypercharged treat. Sam's hypercharge is pretty dangerous, but as metas go on, it gets worse and worse. Mr. P is next in the F tier. So just like Grom, Mr. P seems to be getting nerfs over the past year for whatever reason. He's been terrible in competitive play for a very long time. There actually isn't really a point in using Mr. P, only if you're facing multiple snipers, and even then it takes so long to get your super. Primo is next in the F tier, so there is a slight use case for him because he can counter Damien a little bit, but Primo just, yeah, I don't know what it is about him. Damien is just a 10 times better version of him when you think about it. There's just no reason to really play him, so yeah, he's terrible now. Jackie is next in the F tier, so since they nerfed her health about a year ago, she just hasn't recovered whatsoever. She just gets destroyed by the time you can even get close to anybody. There's just no point using a Jackie. Jessie is next in the F tier. So I thought in previous metas she could have a little bit of, I don't know, she could at least be used because there was just so many tanks, but now there's just too many assassins and she's just not really, there's no point using her. She doesn't have the health, she doesn't have the damage, she doesn't have the hypercharge, she has nothing good about her. And lastly in the F tier we have Gigi. So she did receive a couple of buffs. It seems every update she receives some buffs, but I don't think she's really getting any better. I think she's just pretty much screwed unless they really rework her kit overall. I don't think there's going to be a time where Gigi's going to be good, because even against brawlers shooting multiple projectiles, she simply doesn't have the burst damage to really even compete. At a competitive level, people can just ignore Gigi, just not shoot around her. She just isn't really impactful in the game. So those are going to be your F tier brawlers inside of the meta, the worst of the worst. Now moving on to your D tier. So a lot of these brawlers will have a little bit of a niche use case and might not be completely unusable, but most of the time they are terrible. Start off with Mandy. So Mandy has completely fallen off. I think literally for like 6 months now, she's just never been played in competitive, never been played in scrims. Pro players will just not touch Mandy because her super just doesn't have the same power. There's too many brawlers with too many movement buffs, gadgets, whatever, that can escape or even get close to Mandy as well to take her down. She's just too risky to use and not good. Ash is next in the D tier. So maybe I was a little bit harsh and put him in the F tier in my last tier list, but I just wanted to emphasize just how bad he is. Honestly, he still could be F tier at the moment. There's just no point in using Ash. I think the main thing about him is that he doesn't have the tank trait. He's just too squishy for what he is. There's too many tank counters in the meta. He gets deleted. Rosa's next in the D tier. It's the same with Rosa as well. At least the saving grace with her is that she has the tank trait. And in pro play, there have been a few moments where people will last pick her because of the lack of damage on the enemy team. But I think with an even more anti-tank meta, she's starting to go back into the F tier. Surge is next in the D tier. So Surge just doesn't have the power to really deal with any tanks or assassins whatsoever. It just doesn't have enough health to really tank any of their shots. He received a buff which literally did nothing. He's still stuck in the D tier. Miko is next in the D tier, and the only reason why he's in the D tier is because he can be a good last pick option if you pair it with Kit and Knockout, or last pick option in Heist. And outside of that, I maybe think he's slipping into the F tier. It just seems like Miko, especially at pro levels, too predictable. There's too many tank counters. There's too many ways to counter him in Heist right now. So yeah, it's not that good. Chuck is next in the D tier. So Chuck, literally the only reason why he's even viable is because of Heist. But again, as metas go on, I keep saying it, years and years go by, Chuck's going to get worse and worse as people discover that you can just either, there's a lot of brawlers that can just counter a Chuck, like an Otis, defensively, or just plain simple, leave Chuck, pick other offensive brawlers, and you can win the game. So yeah, but just because in ladder, I don't know, people can still push Chuck pretty easily in Heist, it's still D tier. Dynamite is next in the D tier, and he's been falling down the metas ever since the gadget rework over a year ago, where he's just not able to make an impact on the game. The main reason being is because he doesn't really have that oomph about him. He's just too easy to counter as more brawlers get added to the game, and especially since Edgar's got some buffies, it's just making it even harder for him to work. He just doesn't have that same power. He's way too risky for not a lot of reward. Piper is next in the D tier, so Piper has just fallen down so dramatically. The biggest nerf to her was the fact that everybody received a health buff not too long ago, which makes it so Piper can't two-tap people anymore. And even before then, she actually wasn't really that good of a pick. She's only really used if there's multiple snipers on the enemy team, and if they're quite squishy, then she can be good at a counter pick, or if you just really wanted to hard carry your teammates in ranked. But even then, I don't think she's that valid of an option. Yeah, the pros haven't been using her for at least 6 months now. Bonnie is next in the D tier, so we'll say Bonnie has a little bit of usage in Heist right now in pro play, mainly on Bridge too fast. She can be somewhat underrated, but besides from that, she's just not very powerful. She just gets run down too easily. Takes too long to get her hypercharge, too long to get her super. She's just too easy to take down. Pearl is next in the D tier, so Pearl keeps receiving these small buffs, it seems, every few updates, but it's still not enough to really put her in the knockout or bounty meta. That's the only place where she'll be really any good in, because in other game modes it just takes too long for her to fully heat up, and even when she fully heats up, she just doesn't have the damage anymore. She's not really scary since they nerfed her damage gadget, so yeah, she's just easy to take down. Maisie is next in the D tier. She did receive a small buff with her pinpoint precision star power, but that's not really going to change too much. Yes, in the right hands, Maisie can still absolutely pop off in Brawl Ball and a few other circumstances, but considering there's plenty of anti-tanks in the game right now, it's way too risky to use Maisie. May as well just use an easy one. Pam has fallen down to a D tier, so every time I play Pam, I'm like, okay, she's kind of underrated, but I think with so many brawlers that just have so much damage at the top of the meta, it's hard for Pam to really do anything. Probably because she's just not dynamic enough. She's just really easy to predict, and she just doesn't have the real power. I mean, she's still okay in hot zone. That's about it. Daryl is next in the D tier, and I feel like I might be sleeping on Daryl a little bit, but I think the anti-tank meta is really hurting him. You got Otis, you got Colette, you got Griff. All of these brawlers at the top just do too much damage to Daryl, but the super damage buff is pretty nice. Maybe he could be a C tier brawler, but that's literally the highest he can go. Doug is slipping down to the D tier, so I'm finding, especially since they nerfed the Janet interaction with Doug, normally you could give Janet a hypercharged super, Janet could fly, and there'd be some cheese there. That's one cheesy strategy removed, so that's nerfing Doug. I'm just not really finding now, especially because the meta is just so high damage, that Doug compositions can really work. Everybody is putting a tank counter or high damage brawler in their composition, so even in draft as a last pick and knockout, you're not really getting the opportunity to go Doug that much, so that's why he's falling down. Sprout is going down to the D tier, and that is mainly because of like Mortis, Edgar, and a lot of aggressive brawlers, Damien as well in the meta. Sprout just can't live with it. Yes, there's still some ways that you can use Sprout on like Bell's Rock, for example, but that's one map inside of the game. It's just, even as a last pick, it's hardly ever a good idea to go Sprout. Barley has slipped down to the D tier as well. It pains me to say, because every time I get a good Barley game, especially in Hot Zone, for example, it just feels unstoppable. Like, he can be a great last pick, but literally only in Hot Zone is he really usable. And when Damien gets released into ranked, he's going to be even less unusable. You've got Edgar that can get 2 jumps. You've got Mortis that can close the gap too easily. You've got Griff that's opening up the map. It's just not a Barley meta. And the same has to be said for Larry and Laurie as well. So the twins are just not that great right now. It's by far the worst they've ever been since they've released, which everybody's probably laughing right now, because we've got Damien, who literally feels like prime Larry and Laurie. But yeah, the twins are in the D tier. So the main reason being is because you got Sirius, just a much better version of the twins right now. Even though there's been 12 monthly finals, right? I don't think Larry and Laura have really been picked probably like 3 times at maximum across 12 monthly finals across 3 months, which is just insane. So yeah, they just don't really have the power anymore. They're too easy to take down. They're terrible. And lastly in the D tier, we have Fang. So Fang did receive some nice buffs, to be honest, and I'm waiting to see where he really lands in the meta. It's only been a week, right? I think he could be, again, one of those underrated brawlers like Daryl, where he could slip into the C tier pretty easily. I think the big change is definitely his health buff. I think he's definitely a great last pick option in Bounty, but I can't really see anything outside of Bounty where he can be good. So Is he really going to be better than D tier? I don't know. Okay, so now moving into your C tier brawlers in the meta. So a lot of these C tier brawlers are still pretty okay. Most of the time there's a better option, but it's still above, well, no, just below average, sorry. And it could need a little bit of a buff. So starting off with Tick. So Tick, this really isn't a thrower meta right now, and he's just getting worse and worse and worse. There's too many wall breaks, there's too many aggressive brawlers that can just punish a Tick too easily. He's not the greatest. Next up, we have Shelly. So Shelly, was pretty obvious that as time goes on, she's just going to get power crept. It's mainly because the buffies that Shelly received just weren't really the best. Well, they were pretty good upon release, then got nerfed pretty quickly. So yeah, she's just falling down. Again, it's because her place in the meta as an anti-tank. There's so many better ones out there, so you just rarely see her getting picked up. But she's still like a really good hard counter to a lot of those brawlers like Bull, you know, Edgar, Damien. So she can still be used. Next up on C tier, we have Juju. So Juju has been falling down the metas pretty drastically. And that is just because her super just doesn't really counter tanks all that well. And even her hypercharge is just nowhere near as scary as before. There's too many brawlers that deal a lot of damage that can just destroy it too easily. Her only saving grace is that she can be a good last pick on maybe like Ring of Fire or, you know, parallel plays in the rank rotation. But outside of that, I don't know. I think she just doesn't deal enough damage to keep up with the meta. So on the C tier, we have Buster. So Buster isn't the greatest right now. You might be thinking, well, in NA, they played quite a bit of Buster, and I can't tell you the reasons why. I don't know why he was played that often. But Buster just isn't the greatest. He doesn't have the damage, it doesn't have the health, doesn't have the presence on the map that he once used to have. He might still be good on maps like Double Swoosh, for example, but he's only a viable option when in pro play there's like 4 global bans and then 6 more bans. That's the only time where you might consider a Buster. Trunk is next in the C tier, so I kind of wanted to put Trunk in the D tier because he's not really being played too often, but I think there's still some okay use case for him, especially because he can be a good counter to a Shade, Edgar, Mortis in the meta, but that's literally it. He's only good as a last pick. Anything else, he just, I don't know, too easy to predict. Barry is next in the C tier, and the big problem with Barry is that he's just far too squishy. Just doesn't really feel like he has a big impact on the meta. And you take a look at a lot of the meta options, like right now, for just destroy Barry and the idea of clumping up. You think of Pierce, you don't want to clump up with against the Pierce. Serious. You've got Crow with the anti-heal. You've got Griff open up the map. You've got Lumi at the top of the meta. You've got Edgar. All of these brawlers counter Barry. Next on the C tier, we have Hank, and honestly, Hank could maybe be D tier at the moment. I just don't see a point in using Hank right now. There's a few saving graces in competitive play, maps like Super Beach, where it can be a good counter to Shade, but honestly, I don't even think he counters Shade that well at the moment. It feels like he just feeds the opponents a lot of supers. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Hank right now. He's not that good. Next up, we have Gale in the C tier. So again, Gale is only a viable option in pro play when there's 4 global bans and then 6 more bans, and then, oh, you've removed all the anti-tanks, and then you might have a chance to go Gale. It's all just dependent on the map. If you've got maps like, I think Pinhole Punt, for example, where the map's quite open, a lot of grass, then Gale can be pretty good. But most of the time, there's just better options out there. Squeak is next in the C tier. So it used to always be a time where, for the past year really, where I'd pick Squeak, especially with Wind Up, and especially since the gadget rework, where he'd just be so good in knockout. But I'm just finding in competitive play, there's just too many ways to close the gap on Squeak. There's too many wall breakers in the meta. Again, only good as a last pick, and you can't really last pick Squeak in, you know, Gem Grab, Brawl Ball, etc. anymore. He just doesn't have the like reload or capacity to keep up. Frank is next in the C tier. So definitely when I first did my rankings in the previous meta a couple of months ago, I'm way too quick to put Frank, I think, still in the S tier or even A tier. A lot of the nerfs did hurt Frank a lot, but it's just mainly because there's just an abundance of counters to him at the top of the meta. Again, you think of Pierce, you think of Sirius, you think of Colette. I could just name so many top meta brawlers that just destroy Frank at the moment. Yeah, it's not the greatest, but it's still, his hypercharge buff is pretty good, and he still has a lot of health, which his health can just counter compositions on itself. Carl is next in the C tier, so Carl is very average right now, but he's definitely falling towards the D tier. There's not really much point in using the card. There's a few use cases, maybe in Heist, when there's an abundance of other aggressive brawlers banned out. And there might be the odd case where in Bounce he might be good at collecting the blue star, but that's about it in pro play, because there's better blue star brawlers that can just collect it a lot easier. I don't know, he's just not really that great. Stu is next in the C tier, so we're starting to see Stu a little bit more in pro play right now, just because he can be a decent counter to a lot of brawlers, especially being able to open up the map. But I'm still finding with Stu, it takes too long to get his hypercharge, too long to make an impact. The only way you can really play Stu is at 0 ping, and forever he'll be like at least a C tier brawler on the meta, because he can be really strong on 0 ping. Outside of that, he's just meta. Poco's next in the C tier, so I've always been cautious with my Poco placements on the list, because I know in pro play, especially when you can synergize well with your teammates, come up with a strategy, Poco can be good. Like, that's the reason why he's been beaten in a meta for a very long time. But if we're just playing ranked, you just never see Poco, because he's a very, very matchup dependent brawler in the fact that you need something in your composition to go and create some space. So yeah, Poco can still be good. It still takes him 4 shots to get super, so he still can be good in the right areas. But again, too many tank counters in the meta, he's starting to go down. And the same goes for Max as well. Max can be good in a competitive setting when you and your team play for a max composition. You want to get aggro, we want to get offensive and apply pressure. But I'm still finding there's probably better brawlers for that. I think one reason, you know, you've got like Leon that can create pressure much easier than Max. You've got like Mina on the meta that can create pressure. So the reason for using Max, it's just going lower and lower. And there was a slight nerf with Max as well. Buzz is next up in this C tier. So Buzz is kind of just stuck here. He's a good, well, he's kind of like an anti-tank, but he's just a good counter pick option. He has some really strong matchups, you know, into like Mortis, for example. But as the game goes on, it's harder for Buzz to really make a play in comparison to a Mortis hypercharge for it. So yeah, I don't know. He's too squishy. Not that great. Willow is next in the C tier. So again, I always have this thing with Willow where she can be good, especially in Brawl Ball, but then you can just pick another thrower to counter her out. But her saving grace is definitely that she can defend herself at least against assassins and tanks, unlike other throwers. But yeah, I'm still finding that she doesn't really have enough quick burst damage to deal with them appropriately. So yeah, only good on Brawl Ball. Tara is next in this C tier. So I did realize for some time maybe I overrated Tara a little bit, put her in a B tier for a while. She's still okay. But Tara used to be the brawler where, especially before her nerfs about 6 months ago, where you could just first pick her in gem grab no matter what. You could play her in Brawl Ball bushy maps no matter what. But you can't really do that right now. I don't think she has the damage or just super cycling ability to deal with assassins and tanks appropriately. But again, because she's still decent in gem grab, she's still C tier. Janet is next in this C tier. So I do like Janet, and she's always this underrated brawler in my opinion, because a good player with good reaction time can really just destroy the opponents in gem grab in particular. But where else can you really play Janet? Not really anywhere else. So since they buffed her projectile speed, it's been a nice change, but nobody's really been talking about it. So she's just kind of stuck in a C tier. Next up, we have B. So for the longest time, I've been putting B in the B tier. I'm not really too sure why, because she's not really been played in competitive for a little while now. Yes, she can be good on a nice open map, and there are some good synergies with her. You could think, well, there's Griff in the meta now. That could synergize really well with a B, but I'm just finding other brawlers to just be more impactful than B right now. So yeah, she's only, again, good with like a Griff. Sandy is next in this C tier. So it kind of pains for me to put Sandy in the C tier, mainly because I think there are some underrated use cases for Sandy, especially in like gem grab. If you use your stun to counter out a lot of the assassins and then they feed you super, that's why people use Sandy in pro play. But again, I think in a Griff meta and with a lot of, you'll see the S-tier brawlers, Sandy's just going down and down, only usable in gem grab and bushy maps. So there's only a few maps you can use Sandy on. Eva's next in the C tier. So I've never really been the biggest fan of Eva, and I've always been pretty harsh on my rankings on her, putting her in the D tier quite a lot. But I think in the competitive meta, there are some good cases for Eve. The main reason being just because she can literally walk on water. Her hypercharge can at least push and apply pressure to the enemy team. So she's good on maps like Bruges de Far, Safe Zone. But yeah, I think maybe a few knockout maps as well. I still don't find her being that great. Meg is next in the C tier. So this is another brawler where if you're just playing ranked and playing for fun, you probably won't really go towards a Meg. But in competitive play, when you've got a clear idea, Meg can still be pretty good. But it's just literally use Meg because of her survivability, because she has so much health. You know, she has to get destroyed out of a mech, and then she's in small form. It's really hard to destroy Meg. So in, I don't know, hot zone, knockout, she might still be okay. Bo is next in the C tier, and Bo is just getting worse and worse as the meta goes on. There's just clearly two easier ways to counter Bo right now. You've got, again, Mortis in the meta, you've got Leon, you've got Edgar, all of these brawlers that can be super aggressive to Bo, and at range, you've just got better brawlers like Pierce and Nadia that can just deal too much to a Bo. So his only saving grace is that there's some cheesy compositions maybe on ladder and ranked, but only really bad hot zone is where he's good in because of the mines and whatever else. Outside of that, he's not that good. Lou is next in the C tier as well. So as an anti-tank, his usage is going down and down because it's just safer options. There's brawlers that can deal more reliable damage than him. Again, his only saving grace is that he can be still good in hot zone because his super covers the entire zone. So that can just be good to get in some percentages. But as time goes on, he's getting worse and worse again. Draco has gone from the D tier up into the C tier. So he received 2 buffs, which do feel pretty nice, but it's still a really hard meta for Draco to perform well in. When I start seeing Draco a little bit more in Heist and a few other, like Gem Grab, then I'll start to put Draco in a B tier or maybe even A tier. But right now, he's only been used in Hot Zone, and I'm still not really seeing him used that often in Hot Zone. So yeah, still needs like a brawler to synergize well with him, a Poco, a Byron or something for him to work. And lastly in the C tier, we have Melody. So Melody's only really good in Heist right now, and even in Heist, there are a lot of anti-tanks that can just shred her down too easily. So definitely the main problem with her is that she has a lack of health, but still in pro play, you see a lot of Melody, especially in Heist, because she's one of the only reliable brawlers that can just create a lot of pressure with her dashes. Same with Kaze as well. So pro players still like her, but she's a bit meh at the moment. So now moving on to your B tier brawlers inside of the meta. So most of these are above average or just really strong in a few particular game modes, starting off with Jay Young. So he's borderline C tier for me. The reason why I really like Jay Young is because I'm literally him, bruh. But no, seriously, I think he's really underrated in Bounty because of his speed mechanic. He's really good at getting the blue star and just applying pressure in general. Same can be said for Knockout, but he doesn't really have that punch anymore. He's not that good as a gem carry anymore. So when he's not good in gem grab, then I start to see him becoming a pretty irrelevant brawler in the meta. So he's just a bit meh. Spike is next in the B tier. So I did predict it the last time he received a nerf over a month ago with his damage nerf. Is very, very bad for him, but the thing that's saving him is that a few of the meta brawlers, for example like Crow, Pierce, he can counter with his Spike Cactus, his Life Plant. But outside of that, I'm just finding a lot of teams are just using him less and less. Literally, the only reason why he's good is because you just literally can throw a Life Plant onto a sniper and create pressure. Outside of that, he's not that great. Glober is next in the B tier. So this is more of a prediction because I haven't had the chance to really test out Glober as much as I wanted to, but again, even the pros haven't had the most time to test him out either. I just think Glober, since the range buff, feels pretty nice. Not anything like crazy broken like before S tier. It just feels pretty good. You know, Knockout, Bounty, I think Hot Zone, any map where you're kind of clumping up, I think Glober can be pretty good. You got to, of course, make sure that the likes of Crow are banned, but outside of that, he can still be pretty powerful. Ollie is next in the B tier, so I think for most people, Ollie would feel like maybe like a C tier brawler, maybe even creeping towards D tier, but I think in pro play, everyone knows how to play Ollie effectively, and it's just all about farming and getting your hypercharge. Especially if you pair Ollie with a healer, like even like Gene with Magic Puffs, Byron in Knockout or Bounty, he's going to be that brawler that just creates something. With his hypercharge, it's just unstoppable still. So I still think he's a B tier brawler because it's so good in those two particular game modes. Next up in the B tier, we have Lola. So I was undecided where to put Lola right now because I think she is bugged, or the way that they've coded her. Her clone, her ego, deals more damage than Lola, so she deals a lot of damage. Maybe she could even be A tier, and people are just not really realizing right now. So this is just a weird one. I think even with her actual buff, she probably would be like a C tier brawler. So yeah, I mean, you guys will have to let me know whether she's actually powerful or not, but she definitely feels really good with this bug, whatever you want to call it. 8-Bit is next in the B tier. So 8-Bit is always one of the most underrated brawlers inside of the game, but in Heist in general, he is so strong. He's always going to be good because of his pure damage output. It's also really hard to approach an 8-Bit when he has his turret. He can be a good underrated brawler in a few other instances as well, in Bounty, etc. But it's all about Heist. He's so powerful there. Nani is next in the B tier. So Nani, since the damage buff, has always felt like a good option, but it's mainly for Bounty in particular. Nani, you can even first pick on these open maps. Normally in previous Bounty metas, Nani could get countered by just aggressive brawlers, but I still think because of the pure damage, Nani's still a good option. So yeah, still good. Next on the B tier, we have Belle. So Belle is dropping down the metas mainly because of how squishy she is, and she doesn't really have as much damage, it feels like, as before. But the main reason why Belle is still usable is because of her traps. She can be really good in Bounty because of this. She can still be a good counter to Gene compositions, Jaeyoung compositions. But as time is going on, I'm finding her just a lot more vulnerable. Probably because there's a lot of Kazes, Minas, Leons inside of Bounty. She can't keep up. And the same goes for Gus as well. I'm finding in Bounty and Knockout, there are just a lot better options right now. It's not saying that Gus is bad, but his time is kind of up right now. The clock is ticking for brawlers like Gus and Belle. They probably need a little bit of love because they were always in the A tier for me, now in the B tier. Gray is next in the B tier, and that's mainly because the gray cheese has definitely been nerfed a little bit with a lot of the meta brawlers. You think of gray cheese and Hot Zone, for example, but that's not really going to work out when Lumi is so good, when Griff's so good, when Colette is meta. It's a lot harder to make gray cheese work, but he's still good in Knockout, Bounty, Hot Zone. There's still a lot of plays to be made with him. RT is next in the B tier, so RT was bugged a little bit. They did fix the bug slash, well, not actually fix the bug, but nerfed him appropriately. I don't know what's going on right now, so many bugs, but RT is still just a staple in the B tier. In pro play, he's great in Bounty and Knockout because he has so much health, because he's a bit of a tank counter. So yeah, he's always B tier. Broken Hypercharge as well. Ali is next in the B tier, so this is the first time in a while that I've put Ali in the B instead of the A, and it's mainly because, again, because of the meta brawlers right now. You think of Griff, you think of maybe better assassins inside of the meta, so there are still some good use cases for Ali as a last pick, but I just think because Griff is an option and Griff breaks open so much of the map, opens up so much of the grass, it makes it pretty hard for Ali to pop off. So yeah, it's still pretty good though. Lily is next in the B tier, so again, Lily's gone down a little bit in the meta because of the anti-tanks. You've guessed it, there's just so many high damage brawlers in the meta, but I will say Lily's still fantastic option in gem grab. She could still be last picked into like a Ruffs or some other squishy brawlers, but they're just a little bit better assassins at the top of the meta. Cordelius is next inside of the B tier, and Cordelius is a great option right now. He's still fantastic in Brawl Ball. He's still great in Heist as a shutdown. But again, you're not seeing him as much as in previous metas, but he's still the go-to brawler. When you're thinking of shutting down as one particular brawler, it's always Cordelius. Next up in the B tier, we have Amber. So Amber is still one of the most versatile brawlers inside of the game right now. If you're not sure on what to go in Heist, you can pretty much go Amber all of the time. Again, in Hot Zone, if you're not sure, Amber's still a pretty good option. But I am finding as more brawlers get buffies, she's just losing a bit of power. She's still great though. Nita is next in the B tier, and I have this personal problem with Nita where whenever I play Nita, I get hard counters so much. But I can't ignore that, as until, you know, Bull gets removed out of meta, Nita will always be one of the best counters to a Bull, so she'll always be relevant. She still has a really broken Hypercharge buffy and can still abuse a lot of the immunity frames if you time your gadget correctly. She can be very, very annoying to stop. So yeah, she's still B tier. Mo is next in the B tier, and the reason why Mo is so good is because of his Hypercharge. He's one of the few brawlers in the game where his Hypercharge will just guarantee you like a goal in Brawl Ball or a kill onto the enemy gem carrier. There's not a lot of brawlers that can really do that in the meta. And again, he's a great counter to a lot of the anti-tanks right now. So he's great in Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, and a few other maps. Ziggy is next in the B tier. So again, I've not had the most time to try out Ziggy. He still feels pretty decent, even after 3 nerfs. He was pretty much an S tier brawler in the last meta, so he did deserve them. So with Ziggy, you can still hit your shots pretty nice. He's still a great last pick option, but only last pick right now because of Edgar. Kenji's next in the B tier, so it's all about the person that's using Kenji. In pro play, you probably could say he's like a low A tier brawler inside of the meta, but Kenji is just a perfect space maker because in game modes like Hot Zone, especially when it's a map with a lot of walls, he can just push up to that wall, and he's like, the enemy team are just forced to try and pinch him out. That's 2 people pinching you out. That's creating a lot of space for you and your team, but still, he's just a fantastic brawler anyway. He's got a really cheesy gadget. He can just cause so much pressure to the enemy team. And the same goes for BB as well. It's all about creating space with BB. She's received a few nerfs. She's still great in the right hands, but she's only really good in like Brawl Ball and a map with a lot of walls, and only later on in the draft because there's too many anti-tanks right now, so she's getting worse and worse. Brock is next in the B tier, and this is mainly because of his use cases in Knockout and Bounty. He's still great just literally because he can open up the map. There aren't a lot of brawlers in the game right now that are snipers that can just open up the map so easily to counter throwers, to counter lesser range brawlers, for example. So Brock's always going to be in the B tier. Rico's next in the B tier, so Rico is starting to go down as well, but I'm finding Rico's still really, really powerful in the right hands. It's just all down to the map. But you got to be careful. You can't use Rico as an earlier pick brawler because there's brawlers like Ruffs or even assassins that can get close to him. So maybe he's going to start to go down, but I still think he's pretty powerful in the right hands. Colt is next in the B tier, and honestly, it could be a low A tier brawler as well. I feel like I've been a little bit harsh on Colt recently because he has a few good cases for him. Because, for example, you've got, like, if Brock's banned, then Colt can be good to open up the map. You can pair that with, like, a Nadia or Pierce or a Nanny. Anything with a bit of range can be pretty decent. His speed loader gadget is still really broken, in my opinion. But the main reason why he's so good is because he's just really great in Heist because he just deals so much damage. So, yeah, Colt's still pretty good. And lastly, in the B tier, we have Penny. So Again, when bans favor Penny, she can be really, really annoying to deal with. She gets super really, really fast, and she gets hypercharged still pretty fast right now. So you think of Hot Zone, you think of any of the slower paced game modes, you think of when the map starts to, when the meta goes a bit more controlled again, when it's like Edgar banned and a few others. Penny becomes a big problem, because if you haven't got a wall break or something that can create pressure, Penny will just have the freest game of her life. So those were your B tier brawlers. Now moving on to the A tier. So these are the best of the best pretty much here, and they're going to be so good in multiple game modes. So starting off with Meeple. Meeple is the sleeper pick in my opinion. In ranked, I'm getting a lot of free Meeple matchups, and that's just because of how versatile Meeple is. When you're thinking of a good Meeple matchups, you're thinking of the kind of mid-range brawlers that are mainly anti-tanks. Meeple will be great into those types of brawlers because he's a controller. Controller counters anti-tank. So for that reason, because so many anti-tanks are S tier, Meeple is right up with them as well. Next one in the A tier, I went with Clancy. So Clancy, I'm a little bit unsure on right now, mainly because the range nerf did feel pretty nice and people are picking him a lot less. I would probably like to put him in a B tier, but I'm still seeing some pros play a lot of Clancy, and a lot of people still saying that Clancy is still pretty good. I'm a little bit unsure, but he still has a lot of power. When he gets to level 3, he's really hard to take down. It's just a small reliable tank counter, so question mark over him. Next one here, we have Kaze. So Kaze is still so good in the pros' hands right now, and if anything, she's actually a little bit better indirectly, mainly because of brawlers like Nadia and Pierce being at the top of the meta, where she can be a fantastic counter to both of them because they are squishy. She's still great in heist, can be good in bounty to collect the blue star, so there's plenty of usage for Kaze. Next one in A tier, we have Kit. So we could be putting Kit high B tier, but I'm going to put low A tier because I'm really struggling to find the best of counters to Kit right now. Kit is just such a big problem to deal with. Inside of Knockout and Bounty, a Kit with any type of aggro brawler is pretty much GG. The recent buff to, well, the change to Kit a couple of months ago were definitely buffs. They nerfed the stun duration when you jump on someone. I think that was a buff. They really buffed the healing per second for a short amount of time. And they made it a lot easier to connect your shots whilst you're attached to somebody. So it's all about the support version of Kit. So hard to deal with, I'm telling you guys. In Gem Grab as well, really underrated. Kit's so good. But next brawler in the A tier has to be Angelo. Angelo's permanently stuck here. A for Angelo. So Angelo's really good just because Angelo's a sniper. That's very fast, deals a lot of damage, not really squishy, can jump away, can pierce through walls, goes over water. That's why he's A tier. Next on the A tier, we have Mina. So a lot of people wondering, where's Mina gone in the meta? But Mina is still a fantastic option. It's just whether you have low ping and if you actually have brain cells to use Mina. Me, myself, I'm pretty brainless, so I'm not the best Mina player in the world. But just because mechanics, you just can't ignore the fact that her combinations are wild. She's still got a strong gadget, and you can still just create so much pressure with a Mina. I'm telling you, like, pros still play a lot of Mina. She's still really good. Next up in the A tier, we have Finks. So Finks is the king of Hot Zone. There's hardly anything that can deal with a good Finks player. You can also play Finks in a few other cases as well. You know, in Heist, in Gem Grab even. I don't know, maybe I'm overrating Finks a little bit, but just because of how powerful he is in Hot Zone, I feel like he's got to be in and around the A tier. Next up in the A tier, we have Byron. So Byron has still stayed at the top of A tier. I'm very, very proud of Byron. I feel like ever since his release, he's always been at the top of the meta. And that's just literally because of his super cycling. He gets it with 3 shots. Really easy to keep on top of opponents. He's got one of the easiest to hit main attacks in the game. So his damage, he's always going to have one of the highest damages in the lobby. You can use Byron pretty much anywhere outside of Gem Grab because he's a little bit too squishy. But yeah, really versatile. And the same goes with Jean as well. A super versatile brawler, but because of how powerful Jean is in Knockout and Bounty, still the meta favors the Jean. What can you possibly not love about Jean? You can play it into pretty much everything. A Jean pool can be used to counter brawlers that might counter him beforehand, like throwers, for example. He's got really good healing, good health, good scouting capabilities, easy A tier. Shade is next in the A tier, and he's the one brawler in the meta where the pros just absolutely love. Like, I'm seeing the pros might ban like a Kit or a Bull, and then they just have a free Shade game. You know, think of Super Beach, you think of any map with a lot of walls, triple dribble. A good Shade player will literally take over the game. He gets his hype charge so quick. He just can create so much space. He's a problem in this meta. Next up in the A tier, we have Ruffs, and Ruffs still hasn't received any type of nerf, even though he's just such a consistent pick right now inside of the competitive meta. The reason why Ruffs is so good is because he can open up the map, he can create pressure with one gadget, he can tank shots with the other. His hypercharge can be fed to a really strong hypercharge brawler to create space or just completely turn the tides of the game. He's one of the best picks in Hot Zone right now. Brawl Ball, gem grabber as a lane, even a knockout bounty. You can use the other star power. There aren't a lot of counters to Ruffs other than Mortis and Edgar right now in the meta. He's so good. Next up in the 8 tier, we have Charlie. So Charlie just seems to be one of the best brawlers in the game still right now because she's one of the best shutdowns to a lot of these aggressive ideas. Cocoon is just so good at stopping people. Like, you think of a bull charging into you, throw him into the cocoon. You think of Mortis dashing into you, I mean, Mortis is good into Charlie, but you know what I mean. Her super is just so easy to farm. Her other gadget as well, so easy to block off against all of the single shot brawlers. Also, she's got some decent range. She's just really good. Chester is next in the A tier. So just before the nerfs yesterday, would have still put Chester in the S tier, but just because it takes an extra shot now to get super, I do feel like other anti-tanks will just be a little bit better, but I still anticipate him being one of the best brawlers inside of the game. Main reason being is because he's got some good health, he's got faster movement speed, he can easily turn the game around just for a hypercharge, for a dynamite super. He's just still so good in the game right now. Next up in the 8 tier, I went with Bull. So again, I want to see how these nerfs land with Bull, and I've only been testing them out for a day, but I think Bull has been definitely nerfed quite well because he feels a bit squishier now. He doesn't heal as much. His tough guy star power got nerfed as well, so those are the biggest ones. So I feel like anti-tanks will have a better way to deal with him, but I'm still finding his hypercharge is still pretty broken. His hypercharge buffy is still really good. It's still there's a lot of things about his super cycling that is a bit messed up. But after all said and done, he can still deal with even the biggest counters just because of that hypercharge. And lastly, in the 8 tier, we have Ems. So Ems has finally fallen from the S tier, in my opinion, and that's literally because of the introduction of Griffin to the meta. I think the maps are just being opened up a little bit too much for an Ems right now, but she's still good. Top at 8 tier, she's still fantastic. She's still shut down so much. She's got 2 great gadgets. She still does a lot of damage. She's still at the top of the meta. So those were your 8 tier brawlers inside of the game right now. We're now moving on to your S tier brawlers. So these are the best of the best, and you pretty much want to pick these no matter what inside of the game right now. Starting off with Edgar. So yes, there are some big tank counters in the meta right now, but in your draft, you've always got to consider the enemy can go in Edgar. So you have to plan pretty well for it, because again, if they get a free Edgar game, it's over. The reason why Edgar is so good is because there's so many ways that you can just manipulate matchups with Edgar now that you've got the new Let's Fly gadget. It's a really short cooldown, but what a lot of people are doing, they're even just using their main super just to gain some space, and then they click gadget, and then that's basically 2 jumps for the price of 1. His hypercharge buff is absolutely broken. His hard landing deals so much damage now, thanks to the rework. He's just a machine right now. If you don't have an Edgar counter, you're just screwed. Next up in the S tier, we have Leon. So you might be pleasantly surprised by this. I definitely thought Leon would drop to like the B tier in the meta since his nerfs, but he's still pretty good. There's a few reasons for this. It's because he's still just going to get pressure alone through his lollipop drop gadget. He still gets invisibility when he leaves the lollipop drop gadget. It's still, the totem itself has a lot of health, so it just can create pressure for free. And that's literally the reason why Leon's still so good. He's still able to take down people pretty easily. So I think he's minimum high A tier, but I think he could be S tier still. Next up in the S tier, I've gone with Griff. So even though I don't absolutely agree with this, you still can't ignore that the pros are playing a lot of Griff right now. That's mainly, is literally only because of his gadget buffy. His gadget buffy just holds the keys to everything inside of your draft. You literally can't go so many different things just because of this gadget. The gadget will break open the map in literally 3 uses. After a minute, the map is shooting start. So you've got to then draft around it. So again, you can't afford for your opponents to get a Griff, because if you've gone, I don't know, if you've got a 1 tank, well, the map's going to get completely opened up. If you've got a brawler that lacks range, you just then got to get outranged by a Pierce or Nadia or something along those lines. So just because of the synergy with that gadget, I think he is very, very good right now. But again, I think he's minimum high A tier. Next up in the S tier, we have Lumi. So again, you might be very pleasantly surprised by this, but the Lumi buff was so big to her. The projectile speed buff, the health buff has just catapulted her to the top of the meta easily. In terms of the numbers, if you deep dived before the buffs, you would think that she was like an F tier brawler inside of the meta. That's why they've gone with some big buffs. But I think a pro play, she was always a good like last pick niche brawler, but right now she's insane. She just deals so much damage. She's a brawler that can easily wall peek and pinch with herself. She's got a broken gadget. Her super's so good at stopping things. It's just really hard to close down a Lumi right now. She's definitely back. Next up in the S tier, we have gone with Mortis. So Mortis, I think before the maintenance yesterday, I would have been saying he's like a D tier brawler in the meta, because there was like a change with the way that his dashes works, and it just made him really slow. But now, yeah, that's been fixed, and he's still an S tier brawler inside of the meta. So the reason being, is because he can close the gap so easily now with his star power buffy. It's the fact that both gadgets are really, really strong. There's so many interactions where he can just, I don't know, use one dash to close the gap, two dash, and then gadget the opposition. There's so much cheese to him. If you're on low ping, pros are just playing so much Mortis. He's always banned out in pro play. Next up in the S tier, we have Otis. So Otis is still at the top of the meta. And just because he has so much range and so much damage, I've got to put him really high up on my rankings. He's one of the best counters right now to brawlers like Mortis and Edgar in particular. So if anything, he's got that much better. Again, a great counter to Damien as well. He's, they're one of the only brawlers that you can rely on. Super reliable Otis. And just outside of the top 5 for me, I've gone with Colette. So Colette, still right now, I don't know whether the bugs have been fixed. I don't know what's going on with her right now. But even when you take the bugs out of the equation, she's still an S-tier brawler easily for me. And that's because of a few things. So first thing is her Na'Ar gadget. The one that hypnotizes. You can put it through a wall. And you combine that gadget. Well, you either use it to waste maybe an enemy super to interrupt it, but the main reason is you use it in combination with your super or your hypercharge. You just destroy pretty much everyone with that matchup. Push it is just really good as well, sniping people across the map with that super. But I think mass tax is better now that the hypercharge bug has been fixed, because mass tax gives you an automatic 75% shield, and you also remove ammo from the enemy and gain it for yourself. So yeah, I think she's just the ultimate brawler right now. So powerful. So now going to be moving on to your top 5 brawlers in the meta right now. Starting off at number 5 with Crow. So Crow did receive a couple of nerfs, and yes, they feel decent, but they're just not enough in terms of like zapping the power out of him. He's still going to be this brawler that you can use pretty much everywhere. He's super annoying. There needs to be some harsher nerfs to Crow, because he has been an S-tier brawler, A-tier, whatever, for years. It feels like it's just so hard to really find a true counter to him. There's so much to like about his kit overall. Super versatile. Again, great in highs, just great as an annoying brawler to poke the opponents. His buffies are really powerful as well. His hypercharge buffy really powerful. There's just not much stopping Crow right now. So now moving into the 4th best brawler in the game right now, I've gone with Sirius. So could be top 3 as well, but Sirius, he received 2 nerfs, right? But one of them hasn't even been implemented. His health nerf is, so he basically hasn't received a nerf, because the health nerf was the one I was looking forward to the most. The big problem with Sirius is that he still gets super way too easily. He's a thrower that, has a really quick unload speed. His clones just still get so much pressure on side of the map. You literally cannot play a tank if a Sirius is not banned out. He's just banned out all the time in pro play pretty much. He's just a menace. He really is. It's really hard to deal with Sirius. It's like impossible not to feed him, it feels like. And you can also save up to like 6 clones at one point. So the only way that Sirius becomes not meta is if they really nerf the supercharge rate. But I just feel like he's always going to be at the top. So now moving into the 3rd best brawler in the game right now, I've gone with Pierce. So Pierce is incredibly fierce, and if anything, he's got even better since this meta, because brawlers like Griff have came into the meta. So the more open the map is, the better it is for Pierce. So yeah, he's incredible right now. He received some small nerfs a week ago, but that just really didn't do anything. He still has basically unlimited ammo. He still deals a ton of damage with his last shot. His hypercharge is still pretty broken. There's so much to like about Pierce. He's insane. So now moving into the 2nd best brawler in the game right now, I've gone with Nadia. So Nadia is still incredibly powerful. Yes, she received quite a few nerfs, but I still don't think that was enough to push her away from the top of the meta. So it's a little bit harder to make Nadia work, and you definitely have a little bit of adjusting to do, because now you can't just auto-aim the attack into the grass. But once you get a feel of how she works again, and especially when people are in the open, you can still auto-aim your shots right, or you just simply just flick the shot, and you're still pretty accurate with Nadia, in my opinion. The big problem with her is her super. Her super is so incredibly powerful. You can throw it to anyone. You still get so much super recharge from it. Her hypercharge is still abhorrently broken. She still has insane range. She still has insane damage. She's still one of the best brawlers in the game easily. So moving on to the final brawler that we're going to be talking about, and yeah, he has his own tier because of how broken he is right now. Damien received 5 nerfs, and he's still abhorrently broken inside. Like, in my opinion, he's so toxic. I really like the nerfs though. I really like the direction that they went. But just because he's so overtuned, he's still easily by far the best brawler inside of the game. So if you're wondering why Damien is so broken, just play it for yourself. But honestly, he's so strong. So the main reason is because of his chain reaction. It's so incredibly powerful. You only need 3 hits to gain it. But you got to remember, you can also, you can charge this bar up through hitting 2 brawlers at once. And then the chain reaction gains more super. His super is basically a free kill, because if you combine it with a 2nd star power, you gain your knockback through jumping in. You jump in, you knock them back, they bounce off the speakers, they deal some good damage, and then you just combo them to death. He just feels pretty much unstoppable. But there are a few counters to him, definitely now since the nerfs. He's just still so abhorrently broken. Like, Damien upon release was one of the best brawlers of all time. Absolutely. Especially because you could just jump onto anybody at any range and just kill them. Plain and simple. So yeah, Damien is just horrible to face off against right now. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Here's the tier list on your screen. So again, there might be a few changes because of the recent balance changes, but I reckon this is pretty accurate, especially because I base my list off just how they're used across like the 6 competitive game modes, you know, their viability in draft, in ranked, whatever else. This is as accurate as it gets, in my opinion. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.